You know, there was always this mythology built around the image of the Pachuco. The Pachuco was seen as this rebel who resisted assimilation, created his own language, own style, own dress. So I like that. I just enveloped the idea of being a rebel. I have a 1951 Chevy Deluxe convertible. It's got a manual convertible top. It's got the 3-inch gangster white walls. They're the G15s. It's running some stock rocket hubcaps. It's got a 350 with the 350 automatic tranny. It's got updated front end, so it's a Chevelle 2. It's got an updated rear end, which is a Camaro. Has power steering, power brakes. It's not fire engine red, but it is in the red category. The gentleman that we purchased it from said it was actually modeled off of Marilyn Monroe's lipstick. The interior in this car, with most convertibles, it's usually leather, pleather, or vinyl. This one came with red vinyl. It has red carpet, and the dashboard matches the paint of the car. I have 3 cars that I've had probably in excess of 10 years. My oldest one is a 1937 Buick Special. It was kind of like the Cadillac of its time period. Then I have a 37 Chrysler limousine that I picked up from New Jersey. The grille on that one has about 32 individual chrome pieces on each side of the grille. The last one is a 1969 Impala. I've had that probably about 10 years. That car will take you anywhere it is you want to go. What I like most about driving the 51, the convertible, is the color. The color just stands out, and the chrome is just fantastic. There's just a wonderful feeling when you drive down and you attract everyone's attention. It just brings a measure of happiness to people. I think that could only be done by a nice-looking car. I think my love of cars came with the fact that growing up, we never had a vehicle. I always saw people with cars. I always saw people with muscle cars. I saw people with race cars. But then you see a nice, sleek car, low to the ground, chrome. So growing up, you see all these different cars, and you're like, man, one of these days, I'm gonna have a car. One of these days, I wanna drive that car. And then the sound is always unique. Taking off, it has this purring sound. And then when you downshift, it has another sound. So it's the look, the sound, the feel. It's just everything about those cars that attracted me. So I was born in Tucson, Arizona. Come from a big family, 7 boys, 1 girl. I'm 5th in line. My mother and father separated in 1969, so we came to California, but we broke down in San Bernardino. The first 3 nights in California were spent in a Salvation Army tent. I was raised by my mother. My mother had limited education and limited skills. So my mom became a service worker, somebody who cleans motel and hotel rooms. And that's what she did her entire life, which wasn't easy, being a single woman, raising 8 children. We had some very difficult economic times. There were times when we had no water, we had no gas, no electricity. It always seems that my family was struggling. Something was always missing in our family. But what was not missing was that sense of love and that sense of togetherness and that sense of family. Growing up in a barrio and growing up poor, you have very limited aspirations. You don't have a whole lot of role models in the community. I don't know that I've ever had an aspiration to do anything because you're always just thinking about surviving the next day. I had a love for education. I had a love for reading. I would read every single book that I could ever place my hand on. But if somebody was to ask me in 6th grade or 7th grade, what is it that you want to be? I'm not sure that I could have given them a clear answer. So I went to John North High School in Riverside, and within 5 miles distance from John W. North High School was the University of California at Riverside. And that was the only college that I chose to go to. So I applied to it, received admission to it, graduated from there. I was an English major, doubled with Chicano studies. And when I finished my bachelor's degree, I then went up north to Hastings College of Law and to study law, graduated from there, took the bar exam, passed it, and then came back home, so to speak, to the Inland Empire. So when I graduated from law school, I got a job at the Public Defender's Office in Riverside County. I stayed with the Public Defender's Office for 5 years. I then made the decision to go into private practice. I did that for about 15 years. And finally, after 20 years, I decided to put my application in with Governor Schwarzenegger, and I was appointed in 2008. I have been a judge in Riverside County for about 9 years now. Nobody really understands the weight of responsibility that a judge carries, because when you're up there, you have the fate of these individuals in your hand. So I take my job super serious. But at the end of the day, I would like to think that whatever decision I made about somebody's life was a decision that was measured, that was balanced, that was within the keeping of the law, and something that was narrowly tailored to fit the crime that that individual committed. I never thought that I would ever be appointed as judge, because you never see any Chicano judges. So when you don't see Chicano judges, you think, okay, that's not for me, because you are not going to go where somebody hasn't been before. I've always dedicated my life to the idea of social justice. Growing up poor, I saw firsthand what it's like to be powerless, what it's like to be without a voice. So I joined the Chicano student movement in the late 70s, and I've dedicated my life towards activism. But my activism led me down a beautiful road. In my first year of college, I met Cesar Chavez. And that, to me, really demonstrated the importance of role models for our community. I think everybody has a responsibility, because we all have a story. I think that if every single person who is a professional would go back and talk to a high school, a junior high school, an elementary school, I think just that simple act of going and sharing your story and telling folks how you got where you're at today, that is activism. I think our goal should be the uplifting of all of our children. We owe a duty to them, and I think that we can fulfill that duty quite simply, but it's a duty that we have. The reaction I usually get when people find out what I do for a living is shock, because there's a certain image that they have of my profession. When they find out what I do for a living, and they find out that I have cars, they look at me with, like, really, no, that's not true, you're lying, right? And so I always get a very shocked response when they find out what I do for a living. What I want people to know about the lowriding culture is we're mothers, we're fathers, we're children, we're cousins. We're just like everyone else. We are no different than every other segment of society. The difference is we stand out because of the color of our skin, because of our last name, because we speak a different language, and we stand out because we drive a different type of vehicle. And people who don't understand that will always cast that in a negative light. But I'd like to invite them to my house. I like to invite them to have dinner with me. I like to invite them for a cruise, and let me show them and everyone else that says that we're criminals and that we're drug dealers and everything else, that we are no different than you. We are just like you. My name is Jorge Hernandez. I'm a Superior Court judge, and I'm a lowrider role model.